Hello and welcome back, and today is the next episode of Plants Explained. This is the series where I'm going to be teaching you about all of the scientific reasons behind things that plants do, and I'm just going to be teaching you some of the things that plants do that you may not have known before. And today is a beautiful day. It's only about 10 o'clock here, and if you look up, there's blue skies everywhere, and I'm not even wearing a coat, and I might even have to take this jumper off soon. So I'm actually a very happy bunny today because it's feeling like spring, everything's starting to grow, it's warm, it's sunny, and yeah, I couldn't be happier. So you may have noticed as well, this greenhouse door here is open, and that is actually because I've got my wormery in there, and I've got a reflective cover on them so that they don't get too hot in the sun, and I've also just got this door open so that some of the heat can escape so it doesn't get too hot in there. And my harvester as well, I checked on the app just then and it's about 15 degrees already, and I think that's the hottest I've seen it ever. So maybe even that roof will self-open later to cool itself down, but who knows. And actually today is going to be dry, and then I think tomorrow and Wednesday is going to be a bit wet, and then after that it looks like we're going to have loads of sunny weather, so that's really exciting. But anyway, on with Plants Explained. So over the last few days, you wouldn't have actually thought it with the weather today. Us in the UK, we've actually experienced, and especially Wales and in the West, we've experienced a lot of rain. And this rain was sort of relentless. It was like driving rain, and it only actually stopped day before yesterday, Saturday. And the ground was completely like a puddle in the garden, and we're on a hill here. And all the local places are flooded and everything, but luckily they're not flooded anymore. But today I'm going to be speaking about how that rain's made, or one of the ways that the rain's made, by plants. And plants actually create rain. And the reasons that plants have been used in regeneration of land and regenerative agriculture and all these things like that. By the end of the video, you will know how plants help to create rain, especially trees, and why so many trees and plants are used in the regeneration of desertified land. But before we get on with today's video, please make sure you go down below, hit the subscribe button as well as the little bell icon to make sure you're notified next time I upload a video. So as I have been the last episode, I'm going to start with the basic background knowledge that will help you through this video, and then I'll go on to the main reason why plants, or trees and plants, create rain, and then at the end I'll do a summary as usual, and you'll probably should see on the timeline along the bottom on YouTube, there should be in like sort of chapters then, so you can skip through if you already know or already want to just skip to the summary or whatever. So to start with, as I said last week, plants transpire, and transpiration is a process or a passive process that goes on in plants all of the time without us knowing. And this is where the water goes from the roots all the way up to the leaves. If you want a more full explanation of this, then make sure you click on the video that'll be up here or up here. I always get that wrong. So I've just decided to say both now. But yeah, so make sure you watch that video, because in the basic knowledge of that video, I give a really in-depth description of transpiration. But because I've already explained it in that video, I'm just going to I briefly outlined it in this video. But then another thing that you'll need to know today is about rain and how rain clouds are formed. So rain clouds are formed, and rain is when water has been evaporated into the atmosphere and the humidity in the atmosphere is quite high. And then normally when it gets a little bit colder, or if it goes over some mountains where it is colder, or into some higher air, then these clouds condense into water droplets. And these water droplets are small enough to still be carried in the air and in the wind, but actually it's when these water droplets, if it gets colder again and they keep condensing and condensing, when the droplets get so big that they can't be held in the air, that's when they fall as rain or snow or whatever it is, depending on the temperature. So that's why often rain tends to form over the ocean where there's more water to be evaporated, and that's why it tends to be made as well, especially storms, somewhere that's quite hot or humid, or both. So you can think of it this way with how rain clouds are formed and how rain's formed. If you look on your windows on an early morning where it's a bit colder outside and warmer on the inside, because your house is warmer and more humid, all the humidity from the air condenses onto your windows. And this is basically what a cloud is. So it's on the window, imagine it like that. But then as soon as the water on the window starts to run down onto your windowsill, that's rain. because the water gets too heavy to be clinging onto the window any longer. So that, I think, is all the basic knowledge that you actually need for this video. It's not too much of a difficult subject, this one today. So now let's get on to what parts plants actually play in this creation of rain. So when it's warm, the plants, when they transpire, and when the water leaves the stomata, the water actually turns into water vapour and evaporates off the plants. And it's this that helps plants to create rain, or play a part in creating the rain, because the water leaves the plant and goes straight up into the atmosphere. So sometimes the water can just sort of come out as little tiny droplets, but when it's warm it will evaporate off. So that's how it becomes water vapour in the air, and then obviously it'll turn into rain by condensing. And actually that's why when it's hot, the guard cells around the stomata, or the pores on the bottom of the cells, they make the cells, or the pores, close up a bit when it's hot, so that less water evaporates out. And this is also why the plants in things like the taiga biome, where it's all frozen all the time, have very little stomata, and it's not actually because of the evaporation, but it's just to stop the water loss, because the ground is often frozen there. So trees and plants are actually a bit of a marvel of nature and can actually play a big part when we want to regenerate our land, because as you know, a lot of the land in the world is actually going infertile and desertifying and turning into basically infertile dust and sand. And that's why trees are playing such a big part in this, because not only do they create the rain that adds water that helps the life in the soil, keep the soil going, but they also provide a little bit of dappled shade, which is basically just patchy shade, which will help keep the moisture in the ground that's already there. And this just absolutely, it's crazy to me. It's really interesting. And if you think as well, the plants also drop their leaves, even evergreens drop their leaves sometimes, and they rot down, and these will rot down and create organic matter, which also holds the stuff in the soil and also feeds everything in the soil that they're providing the habitat for. So there's actually an example, a really good example actually, that's in progress at the moment in Africa, across the southern part of the Sahara Desert. I think it's that there anyway. And it's actually where they're using trees and plants, and it's called the Great Green Wall. And if you Google it, it's actually really interesting. And this is where they put a band of trees across the bottom of the Sahara Desert. And what these will do is they'll create the rain, as I said, they'll keep the moisture in the ground, and they'll also provide the organic matter into the soil that this desert needs, or the desertifying land needs, to basically just regrow the soil so that everything's alive again. And this isn't only going to stop climate change from the absorption of carbon, this is going to create great soil there where people can actually grow food again with the trees, a bit of agroforestry. And what happens then is it stops famine, it stops the economic crisis that may be going on wherever, because this can be imitated anywhere. And this, because when they can grow food, they can sell the food and they can eat the food. It solves so many problems all in one. And that's why I love sort of regeneration projects where they don't only help one thing, they don't just help the environment, they actually help us too. So that's why it's important to be organic and eco-friendly in the garden, because you're not only helping the soil and everything, you're actually helping us by being healthier humans. You don't only help the economy, you can help the food because you're eating healthier food that doesn't have chemicals in it. It's just amazing stuff. And another note about the Great Green Wall is actually their plan is to have it as the greatest or the biggest living structure by the end of the project, which will actually make it 3 times bigger than the Great Barrier Reef, which is quite a bit of an achievement if they do manage to get that. So in summary, the trees help to create the rain, and they do this by transpiring, and the water goes from all the way from the roots out to the leaves, and when they leave the leaves, it actually evaporates out, and the water actually leaves by evaporating out and turning into water vapour, which then condenses when it gets to cooler, higher air, or if it's quite a warm environment, then it will cool in the air a little bit, and then it'll condense more over colder land, which is where it'll be released in rain, which I think Wales is a bit of a dump for rain in the world, especially over the last week. But yeah, so the water goes up out of the trees and even off the sea as well. So it goes off any water surface, it evaporates out, and then all this humidity in the air condenses into clouds, and when it condenses too much for the air to carry, all the water drops down and lands as rain, or precipitation we may know it as, here on the land. So that's all that I've got for today's episode, so make sure that you go down below, hit the subscribe button, like the video and leave a comment to let me know if you enjoyed it or learnt something, because it's quite rewarding when you do comment. So make sure you stay tuned for any future videos, both in the Plants Explained series, and there will be some more planting videos coming this week for any of you that are here for the vegetable gardening, because this science thing is quite new to me. So don't worry, there will be much more gardening coming in the next week or two. Thank you for watching, and I'll see you next time.